It's time for Success in Real Estate with Frankie Griffin, owner and broker in charge of the Palmetto Success Team, certified residential specialist, accredited buyer representative, military relocation professional, real estate appraiser, and author of Success in Real Estate. If you are interested in buying or selling a home, investing in real estate, or having your home appraised, you will enjoy Success in Real Estate. Now, here's Frankie Griffin.
The question is, should I sell my home as is? Boy, that just seems to be a common question anymore. Should I sell my home as is? Or do I need to start shelling out some money and getting it in good condition or whatnot? Anyway, that's sort of what we want to talk about today. Actually, there's going to be quite a few things we're going to be dealing with throughout the show. Dealing with questions that a lot of sellers have, especially this time of the year even. Is this even a good time of the year to try to sell your house? Because we are, I get exactly 2 months from Christmas. 2 months. And Brian was just telling me he's already bought me a present, which I thought was kind of early, but I do appreciate it. If you want to go ahead and give it to me after the show, it'd be good. Take it home with me. Won't even look at me. But anyway, it's really nice outside. It's Friday, and now apparently it's very warm because when I came in, I was sweating or wet. So I assume I was sweating because Kevin says I don't get rain on me. So I was sweating pretty good when I came in this morning, Brian. I will tell you that, along with all my equipment. Somebody didn't open the door back here, so had to go the long way around. But we'll be okay. I'm not complaining. It's all good stuff. Not a problem. No, I didn't text. But anyway, let's get straight to the subject at hand. It's a very common question I get all the time. Should I sell my house as is? Well, let's talk about that. First of all, I think we need to understand what as is means, because I'm just afraid that a lot of people completely misunderstand it. And if you're not careful, it will absolutely get you in a lot of trouble. That's for sure. So what is as is? As is means I'm selling my house as is. In other words, I'm not fixing anything. But here's where the problem comes in. I'm just afraid a lot of people believe as long as I market it, I advertise, I let people know right up front, you're buying this house as is, in the condition it's in. And that's fine, but that does not mean you do not have to disclose everything you know is wrong with the house. You still have to disclose defects. And I just want to make sure, I have no problem selling as is. In fact, there's been many times I would suggest to sellers that I'm looking at listing houses for anyway. But I would, I may very well recommend, I don't think you should put any more money into the house. Let's just sell it as is. As long as you understand, you still have to fill out your property condition disclosure statement. That is a South Carolina, that is a law here in South Carolina requiring you to provide that disclosure to all buyers, whether you're selling the house as is or not. So as long as we've got that straight, there's no misunderstandings. I really have no problem selling as is. Now, there's some pros and there's some cons to selling as is, and we want to take a quick look at those. And then hopefully maybe in the second part of the show, I'm going to get into some very, I guess what you call frequently asked questions that a lot of sellers are having right now when trying to sell their home. But there could be some, let's look at the cons first to selling as is. Obviously, buyer is more than likely going to have a negative connotation about your house now. There's going to be a negative connotation. As soon as they read the words as is, the assumption is there's a lot of problems with this house, And chances are there's some major problems with the house that the seller is either not willing or maybe cannot afford to fix. It could potentially scare some buyers off. And, and I hear that all the time. In fact, I was reading an article a few days ago about this. From another agent was writing, basically saying they would never market a property as is because of that reason, because buyers are going to assume there are major problems with the house and we don't even want to go there. Now, obviously, if there are major problems with the house, you need to go ahead and just state that up front, but then you price it based on the condition we know it's in. And that's going to be a big part of what we're going to be dealing with, obviously, this morning. But, to me, again, I don't have a problem with the as is. In fact, let me just give you a for example. And this was not a property I was actually going to list for sale. This was actually a property I was appraising for another agent because they were trying to figure out, should we put some money into this house? And if we do, will that create at least enough or more value than what it's going to cost them to put into it? Or should we just go ahead and sell it as is, obviously at a lesser price? And I get that a lot, and that's a good idea, I think, to do that. So I did the appraisal, and the first thing the owner asked me when I got there, first of all, it was a very well-maintained, very nice home, very nice. And, but the kitchen did not, it had hard surface countertops, but it didn't have the granite and stuff like that. It wasn't upgraded as much as some of the other properties in that area were upgraded. There was a few other properties that did, in fact, have granite countertops. This one obviously did not. And she was asking me right up front, should we go ahead and just put in the granite and get a higher price? Well, I said, I don't know yet. Let me do my analysis. Let's figure it out. And at the end of the day, I wound up telling her, no, I wouldn't recommend doing any more updating. I think you've got it to the point where now you need to sell it as is. I would not put any more money into it. But then when she got the actual appraisal back, she was not happy at all. And in fact, told me that, but this was why I was asking you. You're saying, in essence, it was, I forget the exact numbers, so I'm making up some of these numbers just to make the point. But, she was saying there were a few other properties and ones that I'd even used as comparables, a couple of them, that were selling about $10,000 more than what I appraised hers for. And they were very similar, almost identical properties. The difference was they had the updated kitchens that included granite counters and stuff like that. And she said, but I told you that I would be willing to do it, and you said not to. Okay, well, how much does it cost to update to that degree? I'm telling you, you would have spent at least $10,000, probably a little bit more, to be able to get the additional $10,000. Obviously, we got to take a break, so we're going to tackle that one and some other questions right after the break. Be right back with Success in Real Estate. So we're talking about selling my house or my property as is, and before we went into the last break, I was talking about an example of a client that was kind of not happy with my recommendation on the front end, which my recommendation was leave your kitchen the way it is, sell the property as is. And she was kind of upset because there were this was a neighborhood that was basically cookie cutter. So, they were all pretty much the exact same house. Very little difference at all in floor plans or anything else for that matter. But anyway, there was one or two of the comparables I used that actually sold for about $10,000 more than what I had appraised her property to be. And the reason for it is because they actually did upgrade to put the granite counters. And one other thing I did not mention is they also put hardwood floors throughout the property. Now, it's not a very big property. You're talking about 1,100, 1,200 feet. These are small homes for those that might be looking to downsize, but they were very nice homes. But anyway, so she couldn't figure out why I appraised hers for about $10,000 less than almost identical properties that had sold here recently near her. And I kept trying to tell her because of the upgrades that they did have, granite counters, hardwood floors, and which she did not have. She said, but I told you I'd be willing to do it. I said, but why? Do you really think you're going to be able to replace your carpet with hardwood floors, put in granite countertops for less than the $10,000? Not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think you're just better off. Yes, you're selling for a little bit less than those around you, but it was very nice. Now, she did have in new carpet or pretty new carpet. Looked very good, well maintained, excuse me, well taken care of. But so my point is this, sometimes it's just going to be more economical to just sell as is. Now, when I say as is, obviously I'm talking about should I update, should I upgrade certain things in the house? That's really what I'm talking about here. Now, I'm going to tell you, when it comes to, if you're talking about as is because of defects, that's a little, in my opinion, that's a little bit different ball game right there. My suggestion is always fix the problem if you can. Now, there are some that may not be able to do that at all. And I get that. Maybe because they're just not in a position economically to be able to afford to make some of the repairs. I get that. But if you can make the repairs, you need to make the repairs, because I'm telling you, when it comes to those type issues, that's going to cost you more money to try to sell as is. Because if you had a situation that we estimate, for example, it will cost $10,000 to fix it. Now, that would be, obviously, there's a pretty significant problem with the house if it's $10,000. In fact, let's not even use that number. Let's say $2,000. It's going to cost $2,000 to fix whatever this problem is. Any buyer making an offer, if they know it's going to, they're estimating it to be $2,000 to make the repair, that's going to probably cost you closer to $4,000 in sales price, because you never know, and that's the key there. If I'm representing the buyer, and we know there's an issue with the house, and we get an estimate to repair or fix that problem, I'm almost going to double whatever that estimate is, because the estimate is to fix what they can see, what they know exists, and almost all the time, almost every time, there's going to be some things that they did not see or could not see until they got in there and started tearing things out, pulling things apart, things of that nature, and then they find other problems that they did not know about. So more times than not, we're going to double the estimate and take that off the sales price. But what if there are no other problems? Now you've sold the house for a lot less now than what it's going to cost to put it back into good condition, for example. So anytime you can make repairs, if that needs to be done, I think you need to look at making those repairs, because, again, it's going to cost you more money if you don't. In fact, the second thing on this list that this particular surveyor put out, when it comes to problems with selling as is buyers are going to lowball you. And they are. So just get used to it. Get ready for it. Now, the other thing you need to understand, I think you can still sell as is if it's marketed properly. And when I say properly, here's what I mean. And this is what we do with the Palmetto Success Team. And we've been very successful with it to this point. I like it for a lot of reasons. But one of the first things we're going to do, seller, if you have us come sell your home, we're going to do a pre-home inspection. I've talked about this many times on previous shows, and I know that, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but we are going to do a pre-home inspection. I pay for that. I do not charge it back to you as a seller in any way, shape, or form. That will be an expense that I bear for a few reasons. One, it's important, seller, that you know what a home inspector is likely going to write up or find before you put your house on the market. Because, what we're finding is probably 90% or more, and in fact, a lot of cases, 100% of everything the home inspector writes up, it's just little, what I might suggest, I might call it a cosmetic issue. It's just not a major deal. You're going to have some of these little cosmetic deals throughout the house, especially assuming if you've had it for a while, you've been living there for a while. There's going to be some wear and tear. I mean, that's going to be there. There's no way to avoid it. But it's not going to prevent a home inspector from writing a lot of that stuff up because they're trying to protect themselves. If they don't write it up, the buyer gets mad. Why didn't you write that up? Even though it's not a big deal, they're going to write it up. So when they write it up, now the buyer is going to take it as a big deal. This is a big problem. Seller, you got to fix this. Well, see, once we've identified these issues, seller, then you can go ahead and fix them. And typically you can fix probably most, if not all of it, yourself. It's just not a big deal to much of what they write up. You can fix it yourself for a few dollars. It's not going to usually be very expensive to do. The problem is if you wait for the buyer and their inspector to write it up, now you've got a situation where when the buyer asks you to fix it, and now, again, you don't have to fix it, but I will tell you that's going to go, if we have time, we'll get into that. But I'm going to tell you that's going to cause you more problems if the buyer decides, well, then I'm not buying the house. Again, the law says you don't have to fix anything the buyer asks for, but the buyer doesn't have to buy it either, and they can walk away without penalty. That's going to create a lot of other problems. If we have time, we'll get into some of that later. But if you're going to fix the problem that the buyer has addressed, now, seller, because you're now under contract, the contract very clearly specifies any work done at this point must be completed by a licensed contractor. That's going to cost a lot more money. Probably just to have them come out is going to be another $7,500 just to come out and look at it type fee. So you could save a lot of money, potentially hundreds of dollars, just by doing certain things yourself. But it has to start with identifying the issues up front. And that's what we're going to do. That's why I have the home inspection completed myself, so we know what kind of things to do. Now, we may decide we're not going to fix or repair or replace whatever this inspection reveals. And a lot of times I'll recommend that to the seller. I wouldn't worry about that. Just leave it alone. But what we are going to do, we are going to disclose that up front. So, and we tell them, buyer, this, here's a copy of the home inspection our inspector found, or things our inspector wrote up. There are a few things we did not repair, and here they are. They're nitpicking things. They're nothing to be concerned about. But I will tell you, buyer, we have priced the house with the knowledge of these things that currently exist. Do not come back in here and ask us to fix stuff that we've already told you exists, not at the price we've already agreed to sell it. And, it does seem to work out pretty good. As long as the buyer knows about it up front when they make their offer, we tend to not have really the major issues that a lot of sellers have if you don't have the inspection up front. So it works out really good. And I'll just tell you, and I know we got less than a minute, but another thing we're going to do, and in fact we have just started doing that's really working out well, we're going to have your heating and air inspected and cleaned, because that is always the number one thing a heating and air company's going to write up when they inspect that heating and air unit. It needs to be cleaned. The coils are dirty. So anyway, we're going to have it all cleaned. It's going to be looking really good. Again, we take care of that. We pay for that for you. I say we, the Palmetto Success Team. Got a number of other things we want to talk about, but we'd certainly love to hear from you. What do you think about what I'm saying? Love to hear from you. The number here in studio is 799-8255. Be right back with Success in Real Estate. Welcome back to Success in Real Estate. Friday morning. Oh, I can't wait for the weekend. Got a big ball game coming up with Carolina. Going to be a great weekend. Might be a little damp, but it's okay. Got my... what do you call it? The fireplace is going now. This is the time of the year when people strive to live. This is nice. This is not cold. Brian loves it. We all good. All right. We've been talking about selling our house as is. What's the pros and cons to doing that? And again, I'd love to hear from you if you've got any thoughts, any comments, suggestions. The number in studio is 803-799-8255. Again, 799-8255. And you're more than welcome to call in, and we'll talk about whatever you want to. But, there's really just one more con, if you will, to marketing a property as is, according to this article. And it does suggest that it will probably attract fewer buyers. And I agree with that. It probably will attract fewer buyers. And in fact, it may attract a lot less buyers because, most people today are looking for what I consider just move-in ready. They don't want to do any work at all, nothing. I don't care what the buyer says. I've learned they don't want to do anything. Maybe 1 out of 30 are serious when they say they're looking for a fixer-upper because, and I know this is a little off subject, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. But if you're thinking about buying a house, you really need to be upfront, be honest with not only yourself, but with your agent, especially if I'm your agent. It's really difficult if you're trying to tell me you're looking for something like a fixer-upper, something, things that you can do on your own. Because you want to get it for a cheaper price and you can build equity quicker that way, which you can if you're willing to do that. And then when I go show them some houses that would be considered a fixer-upper, they're like, nope, can't do that, don't want to do that, nope. So at the end of the day, what you're telling me is you want a move-in ready home, but at the fixer-upper price. That's what you're really saying. And I will tell you, those typically do not exist. That's a fallacy, and it's only on HGTV where you see stuff like that. So, look, you got to pay for what you're going to get. So just thought I'd throw that out there. All right. But anyway, those were some of the cons to selling your property as is. But we do have some reasons why you may very well want to sell as is. In fact, I kind of touched on a couple of these a little bit earlier. But obviously, if you're in a situation where you just cannot afford to make the repairs, maybe they are significant and you just can't afford to make them yourself. You know what? Then it is what it is. We got to sell it as is. But like I did say earlier, that will greatly affect how much you sell it for. You can't expect somebody to just take off whatever the estimate is. And I'm going to tell you, that's where I think sellers get a little bit, I got to be careful with my wording here. Sellers, you're being a little bit unreasonable, okay? I understand how you might think, well, if it's only going to cost $1,000 to fix it, and I'm wanting $150,000 for the house, then I'm willing to go $149 so you can fix it. Well, buyers are not going to do that. If I have to do or deal with doing the work myself, we're coming off that price of a good bit more than just what the estimate cost to fix it's going to be. I can assure you, one, because I don't want it to go over the estimate, And two, I'm the one having to deal with having to fix whatever it is. So that $1,000 might cost you $4,000 or $5,000 by the time you actually sell the property. So you got to keep those kind of things in mind. Okay. A lot of times it's because you just don't want to deal with the stress. Okay. It can be stressful having contractors come out, do a bunch of work on the house. And I get that. If you don't want the stress, you don't want to have to deal with it, you just want to sell it as is. Look, I get it, and I don't have a problem with the as is, and I don't for any reason, as long as you understand that's going to affect the sales price, and it just is. In fact, what I really kind of like to kind of get into right now is. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these frequently asked questions that I tend to get a lot. And, I'm just going to tell you, before I get into that, there's three mistakes I see sellers make all the time. Very common mistakes. And the number one mistake, and I know you already know what it is we do not price the property right. I just got to tell you, and I don't know, well, I do know. This year has really been, I think, a difficult year in terms of sellers, rather. Just they're overpricing the property. And I understand why they're doing it. They're in a seller's market, or at least have been. We might can debate a little bit whether we're still in a full-fledged seller's market right now or not. But certainly a good part of the summer was a seller's market. And why not put it up there? The inventory's low. Buyers are looking. They're making offers as soon as it comes on the market. Yeah, I get all that. But I'm going to tell you, it can still come back and bite you. We have had a larger percentage than normal. I'll just leave it at that for now because I don't have any specific numbers. But a lot of these contracts, even though the buyer and seller have agreed to a certain price, it's not appraising for that amount. That causes problems right there. Now what are you going to do? We got a caller? Okay. Well, let's go to our phone lines because apparently we have Erica on the line with us. Erica is our mortgage go-to gal. She is the financing expert. How you doing, Miss Erica?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Oh, this is such a it's gorgeous outside.
It feels like fall.
Yeah, but are you outside by chance or driving?
I'm driving, yes.
Yeah, I figured you was. You always going somewhere. Well, you better be careful. Those roads are wet for sure.
It's I did not dress appropriately for the day, so I'm a little chilly.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
You did dress.
Sorry, it took me a minute to call in. I apologize.
Well, that's just the way things go. Things happen, and then we deal with it.
Good.
That's what we do. We're in good shape. What's going on in finance? Because I know you were at the school talking to our students yesterday, and I want to thank you for that. And didn't get to see you except for as you shot by me. But
I know.
I was teaching another class. But what's going on in finance? You share any good stuff yesterday?
Any good stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's always really, really encouraging to speak to a group of really, really passionate, excited individuals that are ready to jumpstart their real estate career. And it always is just so exciting to be able to share a little bit about the financing side for them and try not to overwhelm them too much. But everything is doing good. Rates are pretty much about the same. We're in the 5s.
Mm-hmm.
I know a couple weeks ago we talked about state housing and all the wonderful programs that they now have available. Those are incredible. They have their conventional with the 3% down. They've got the hardest hit with the $15,000 there.
Yeah.
Those two alone is very, very excited. This is an exciting time to be buying a house because those two programs can radically change what you can afford.
Absolutely.
That's important. And Claude has worked tirelessly to provide them for us, and we are so grateful. If you all want to know more information about the hardest hit and about the home advantage, give me a call, send me an email, shoot me a text. I'd love to have the opportunity to see if you qualify for one of them. And now is a great time.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think, feels like, oh, it's about the holidays. I don't like that excuse, Frankie. People do everything in the holidays. Why not buy a house?
And I'm going to tell you, people are buying houses. They're buying them.
Let's do it.
Now it has slowed down. But obviously from the summer, I mean, there's going to be some slowdown. Obviously as you get into fall and certainly into the winter. But you're right. Now's a really good time to try to sell your house. Erica, I will tell you, we caught you right at the end of a segment. And so
that is okay.
We're going to have to take a break. Can you hold on through the break?
I can, yes.
Okay. Well, you hold tight. We got to go ahead and get this break. But on the other side, we're going to talk about some of these financing options we got available. We'll be right back with Success in Real Estate. Hi, good morning again. Welcome back to Success in Real Estate. I'm Frankie Griffin, real estate broker and appraiser. On our phone lines, we still have Miss Erica Hill West with Lending Path Mortgage. And I apologize about the break, but we had to pay the bills. Got to do it, Miss Erica.
That's fine.
Well, so you were talking about these two programs that are available through state housing, but everybody knows you're the expert at it. So if I'm wanting to apply for a loan or thinking about buying a house, can I just call you and start there?
Yes.
There you go. So is there like paperwork I got to fill out? And I guess you'll provide me with whatever I need to do to get some of this help or assistance?
Yes.
Yes.
So that, we are your one-stop shop. We help you get pre-qualified. We walk you through making sure that we do all of the paperwork correctly for state housing, collecting all your documentation. We really streamline it to make it as seamless as possible for you. So we're not going to pull you in and then leave you to your own devices to figure it out. We'll walk with you through every step of the process, answer any questions you have, and make sure that you are happy come closing day.
Yeah. Hey, here's something I wanted to add, change the subject a little bit. But, always this time of the year, and we haven't talked about it yet this year, but timing seems to be a big deal. When I say time, I'm talking about like closing. Because if there happens to be a hurricane coming our way, we might not be closing.
That's true.
What's up with that? Because I know this last hurricane was, we had to put off closing. Almost a week because of it. What's up with that, and what can we do about it, if anything?
So, it also is going to vary. Those guidelines are going to vary lender to lender. Our company did not have any delays or pushbacks for closings in Columbia because we were not designated as a disaster area after the hurricane came through. But we did have areas in North Carolina and on the coast that had to wait to be assessed before we could close. And all of that is to protect is to protect the buyer. We don't want you to close on a house that may have weathered some damage from the storm, and it may not even be visible to the eye, and you don't realize that until after you're in there.
Yeah.
And so some of that is really to just make sure that the property is in good condition, and in the condition that it was when you agreed to purchase it. The second thing is a lot of insurance carriers will not bind insurance coverage until properties are re-inspected to make sure that no damage was done by the storm.
Yeah.
We were fortunate in Columbia. Now, if there were other places that did delay, that has to do with their investor requiring specific word from FEMA that it was not a disaster area. We interpreted it as they did not include us, so we are not a disaster area. There were certain counties that were considered questionable, and so if the properties were located within those areas, they did have to wait. But around Richland, Lexington County, we were closing as normal.
Well, I'm sure you know this, but, I get a ton of phone calls, especially from real estate agents. Anytime things pop up, and what about this? What about that? How do we deal with that? That kind of stuff. But anyway, I got like 2 or 3 phone calls a couple weeks, or not long, right after this this last hurricane or rain, basically, is what we got. But we did get not much, but we had some wind, and apparently we had a few houses that were under contract, just waiting to close. That once that wind and rain blew through, a few of these houses were now missing shingles. Actually, blew shingles off the house. And and at least in one case, which is kind of hard for me to believe, they had to wind up before the lender would close. They had to replace the whole roof instead of just a few shingles. Have you heard of that? Or are you familiar with that? Or?
Yes. I mean, what they could have assessed was that, if there was not excessive wind damage across most properties, that the damage occurred because perhaps the age and condition of the roof. Mm. Again, that is just an assumption on their part, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because there are so many factors that I am not even educated to even speak about how damage happens to specific shingles or roofs. But that would be my guess, is that that's what they were assessing, is that the age and condition of the roof caused damage more easily, and so for their requirements, they wanted the roof replaced. Well, I think it's excessive, but unfortunately, kind of have to do what they want, right?
Yeah, got to do what you got to do. But here was a suggestion I made, and of course, I told them I don't know how this will work out for you, but I'm just curious if you might know. But I told them I would get a second opinion. In fact, I told them to call Larry Dennis and Sons. They've been doing roofing around here. In fact, they're one of our real estate partners, but they've been doing roofing for 50 years, I think, or more. And, I know for a fact, some companies will, especially in a situation like that, they're going to say, yep, you probably need to go and get your whole roof replaced. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with the money they're trying to make. But maybe other companies will come back and say, well, you don't need the entire roof replaced. You just need to replace these 2 or 3 shingles, and then you should be fine. Would the underwriter assist? I'm sorry?
Yes, I think you could have a strong case with that, specifically if you had, let's say you had 3 people come out, and 2 out of the 3 said that the condition quality of the overall roof is in good shape, and that they recommend shingle replacement. I think you could make a pretty strong case to just replace those shingles and ask for an exception.
Well, I don't know how it worked out. I hadn't heard from them again, but that was my suggestion. I would certainly want a second opinion. If there was no issues with the roof prior, to me, that seems a little bit crazy. But and I think it
is crazy.
Wasn't it the whole shingle blown? That maybe 1 or 2 tabs would get, or at least get blown up, and you can tell where it's kind of sitting up a little bit now, not just laying flat. And I can see where you need to do something about that. I get it. Replace the shingle, but that doesn't mean the whole roof needs to be replaced. Good grief.
Right.
So
I agree.
Anyway, just wanted to make that. Well, how can we get in touch with Miss Erica if we want more information about these state housing programs or other things involved with buying a house? How do we get in touch with you?
You can reach me on my cell phone, which is 803-528-5019. You can email me at erica@lendingpathmortgage.com, or you can search for me on Facebook. Just search for Erica Hill West Mortgage Group.
Well, that's why you're the best, and I can't thank you enough for all you do to help us and our clients. Thank you so much, Miss Erica.
Thank you, Frankie. I hope you have a great weekend.
You do the same. All right, that was Erica Hill West with Lending Path Mortgage. And if you couldn't write down or capture her information, all you got to remember is frankiegriffin.com. Just go to frankiegriffin.com, and there you'll find, you'll see a link there. In fact, they're right there on our homepage. Don't even need the link. Just right there on the homepage, you'll see them listed. Erica's there. Andy Allen is there. Larry Dennis and Son, if you got questions about your roofing, is right there. They're all there. Just check them out. Give them a call. Their websites, everything. I think you'll find anything you need, you'll find on the website. And by the way, speaking of my website, I will just throw this out there. I've got a buyer that I'm working with right now. And, he had started, like as many buyers do, emailing me houses for sale that he had found online himself that he was very curious about. And as usual, I think this one, he sent me like 6 houses that he was interested in. And of those 6, one of them was actually still for sale. And, you know, a lot of these third-party, what I call third-party websites that you can go on to and look up, you know, houses for sale, they just don't update statuses. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, if I've said it once, on the radio. You just can't rely on a lot of these third-party sites. And I'm not going to say who they are. You know who they are. Brian gets upset when I say certain sites, so I won't say it. But let me tell you where you can go, which is where this client went, and that was my website. Because he was actually this particular buyer, he wanted to be in a particular area. That's what he wanted. I said, well, go on my website, and on my website, you can search the entire MLS, the entire Midlands, everything in the MLS, you can see it right there on my website. Don't even have to be a real estate agent. You can search the MLS. But the nice part about it, you can actually do a map search. So, for example, if you know there's an area, a particular area, as this buyer did, that he wants to be in, you can plug that area into the criteria, and then it will pull up the houses for sale, you know, that meet your whatever else you put in there, the price range, the size, you know, other amenities that you might be looking for specifically. You can put all that in there, and then it will pull all the houses up on that map, and it'll all show up on the map. And then you can just click on each one of them if you wanted to do it that way. But look, there's 2 or 3 ways you can search for houses for sale. And the reason I like it when they go on my website, 1, I like you to go on my website. But 2, the statuses are current or at least within the hour or so. So if it says it's active and currently for sale, you can just about rest assured it's for sale. I know we're out of time. I wish that we had more time to go through some of these frequently asked questions. Maybe we'll talk about them some more next week. But if you're ready to buy a house or sell your house, please give me a call. Just go to my website, frankiegriffin.com. See you next week on Success in Real Estate.